All right, so I'm joined alongside UFC flyweight Lauren Murphy, who fights at UFC Fight Night Utica June 1st. So how are you doing, Lauren?
I'm good for just hanging out this morning.
Is that your dog?
Yeah, this is my puppy.
What's his name? He or she?
Oh, Penny. Her name is
Penny.
Penny.
Ah, that's nice.
Yeah.
So has camp started for you? I know you're not fighting till June 1st, but what's going on with you at the moment?
Well, I'm always training pretty hard. Like, it's really important to me to get better between fights. So I always make it a point, like, there's not a lot of difference between my off times and my camps, except for maybe, like, how many hard rounds I'm doing or a little bit of specific game planning. So not a lot is different quite yet. We'll really start dialing in my diet and my cardio, in the coming weeks, but nothing too crazy yet.
So did you have a nice Easter? Managed to enjoy
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, we went up to a friend's house. We don't have, well, I mean, I have a son, but he's 16 now. He'll be 17 this year. So it's not like we have little kids that we hide baskets for and stuff. So we like to go over to friends' houses for things like that, play with their kids.
Yeah, that's nice. So, I mean, having a family, having a 16-year-old son, what was that like having to leave them to go on The Ultimate Fighter?
For me, that was probably the hardest part of The Ultimate Fighter was being away from my family. And, obviously we're all very close. But it took me by surprise, really, how difficult it was to leave them. I mean, losing on the show was bad. And, like, I don't know, just living with all those women was kind of annoying sometimes. But the really, by far, the worst part was being away from my husband and my son and my dog. But me and my husband and my son, we're all very, very close.
That's nice. And I mean, you said you lost on The Ultimate Fighter, but it was to, she's gone on to win the flyweight champion, to be the flyweight champion. So surely you don't take that as too much of a downer, do you?
No, not too much anymore. I mean, losing is never fun. And I think that I didn't have a very good performance on the show. Just, I think mentally I wasn't in the right space. I think my weight was too low when I was on the show, so I was a little bit too small. I think there was just a lot of contributing factors, and then to top it off, I kind of had a shit performance. So I'd like to try and get a rematch with Nicco someday and see if I can have a better performance against her. I'm not saying that that's the reason that I lost, but I would just like to go back and at least be 100% and see if it changes things for me.
And obviously, you ended up fighting in the finale last minute. Were you trying to, because Sijara couldn't make weight, so there was that last minute spot. Were you trying to get that spot to have a rematch there with Nicco?
Oh yeah, when I found out that Sijara had missed weight, I was really hoping that they would give me her spot in the in the finale, and then I could go on to fight for the title. But the truth is that I had already fought Nicco on the show, and there's not a lot of incentive for the UFC to make a fight that everybody's already seen. So putting Roxanne in there made sense. It was still kind of a bummer. I was a little bummed, but it all worked out. I had a really good fight with Barb. We had a great performance that night, and yeah, there's nothing really to complain about.
So you won by split decision. Looking back now, were you happy with the overall performance, or did you see aspects there that you wanted to improve on, and have you been doing that?
Both. I was really happy with my performance. I thought that I performed really well that night. Barb's a super tough opponent, but also there are things that I could work on. And so we looked at that fight and said, okay, if we were going to fight Lauren Murphy, how would we beat her? And we kind of took some notes on some weak points that I had in that fight, and we've just been working ever since then to make them stronger.
And why did you go on Tough? Because you were already in the UFC, weren't you? You were competing at bantamweight. So why did you make the decision to try out for Tough?
I wanted the belt.
Right, yeah, of course. Okay. And do you regret going on the show? Obviously, I know you had a little bit of drama with your coach, Eddie Alvarez, as well. So how do you kind of view that whole overall experience now, looking back at it?
Yeah, it was hard. There's good things I can take out of tough, you know. Like I think it made me a better person. You know, I think that it really showed me what's important to me. It really exposed some areas mentally where I wasn't as strong as I thought I was. And so just being able, you know, having your flaws pointed out on national TV is never a lot of fun, but at least it gives me the chance, you know, to kind of plug up those holes and to work on myself a little bit and show me what, you know, where I'm weak and I need to be better. And I think that's a positive. But yeah, Eddie's a dick. I didn't really like being around him. I would not do it again. I'm good on the Ultimate Fighter. There's definitely some positives we've taken from that experience, but I'll pass. Yeah.
And you train out of MMA Lab. I know there's a lot of fighters that have got up and coming fights. So what's the atmosphere like at the moment? Obviously, you said you've been kind of constantly working on stuff.
Sorry.
That's okay.
It's the MMA Lab. The thing that makes it such a great team is the people there are so wonderful. And so the atmosphere there is always pretty good, whether we're all in camp or not. I think there's just a little bit more urgency when so many of us have fights coming up, but it's always a good place to be. And the only people on our team are going to be good, hardworking, selfless people. And to be honest, if you're not one of those people, if you don't want to work hard, if you don't want to give back to the team, if you're not liking what you're doing, you're probably not going to be on our team very long. So, so yeah, the MMA Lab is always a good place, a fun place to train, and we all work really hard. Yeah, I'm just excited to see my teammates go out and perform.
So, like we said, you're facing Sijara Eubanks. And don't you think it's a bit funny that she was the person that you replaced in your last fight and now you're being matched up with her? So what did you think about that when they first put it forward to you?
Yeah, we just said yes right away because she's ranked higher than me. And, you know, you always want to try and fight up if you can. And so there was really just no hesitation if she's considered. I think she's ranked number 2 and Shevchenko's ranked number 1.
Okay.
So if they have Montano and Shevchenko fight for the title and then Sijara and I fight, then I would imagine they would match up the 2 winners afterwards. So there's really not a better matchup. You always want to fight up.
Of course, yeah. And she's obviously had some problems making weight in the past. Are you at all concerned about her not being able to make weight again this time around?
Well, I really wasn't until today, and I saw the bullshit going on in New York right now.
Yeah.
And so to see how the commission, you know, stopped Max Holloway's weight cut and then like won't let Paul Felder compete for the title at least. I mean, I think he's still going to fight Al Iaquinta, but they wouldn't let him step up into the championship fight. Just seeing that today kind of made me like, oh, Sijara better be A game. Like, you don't be around with your weight cut this time. But, you know, I guess that's really out of my control. So it did catch me a little bit by surprise this morning, but for the most part, it's something that I try not to think too much about. I just assumed she's going to make weight. I assumed she was going to make weight at the finale too. Like I was honestly surprised that not only did she miss, but she missed so bad.
What do you think about the whole weight cut issue? Obviously, there's been a lot of kind of seriousness as well surrounding people, you know, being taken ill, being taken to the hospital surrounding weight cutting. Do you think anything can be done? And what do you think the way forward is with that?
Yeah, I think that as we get, you know, further in the sport and we all progress, I think people's weight cuts have gotten better. You know, I think people are kind of understanding the process a little better and how to like what factors they can control so that they can have the best weight cut possible. I think we're really like making advances in that, and we're also finding out that cutting weight might be worse for you than we all originally thought. And so I think there is a happy medium where people can cut a safe amount of weight and still be healthy. And I don't see any way around it other than the fighters taking responsibility for themselves. And then the commissions, I guess, can do stuff like they can step in and stop, you know, a fighter from competing if they think the weight cut is too hard, or they can weigh us in, you know, throughout fight week to make sure that we're losing safely and then rehydrating safely. So I think people are trying to make it a safer process for all of us. It's just going to take some time to iron out the kinks.
Do you think there needs to be more weight divisions? Do you think that may be an
No,
answer? No?
I don't. I don't. I'm not one of those. The only thing I could see is if they wanted to just keep it consistently every 10 pounds. So
Okay.
55, 65, 75, 85. And that's not really more divisions, though, is it? I think that
I
keeps
think
it
you
the
have to
same, or
add in
different
one
way.
or something like that. But
Oh, so there would be one new
yeah, I
division.
think so, something like that.
Yeah, 65 and 75. So
Yeah.
anyway, I think that would be, better, to be honest. But there's already so many f***ing champions and interim champions, and I don't know. Like they gotta quit doing that. You know, like
Yeah, yeah.
if you're gonna have that many divisions, I think just have that many champions.
And you mentioned obviously about the news that's been unfolding, surrounding UFC 223. What did you think about the whole Conor McGregor situation? Have you been following that?
Yeah, that's crazy. That dude's a maniac, and it's kind of fun to watch from like a perspective of just like sitting back and chilling. But I think it's actually a pretty serious issue. It's not just one guy versus one guy anymore. That's like a whole huge Russian crew full of some really badass motherfuckers against a whole huge Irish crew. Like I don't know. I think I think it's crazy to see from this point of view. It's crazy to like watch it unfold in front of us. It's nuts.
And did you see the footage? Because obviously there's, Mike Chiesa, got injured, Ray Borg as well. What did you think about that? As, coming from a fighter's point of view, if you were there, cutting weight for a fight and then something like that had occurred, what would be going through your mind?
It's wild. I don't even know. Like those people on that bus, they don't know what's happening. And people like are talking shit, I guess, to, what's the guy's name? Reed something.
One of the UFC executives.
Yeah, and he had sent out a tweet that said we thought we were going to die, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're overreacting." But like, really, if you're on a bus and you're surrounded by a group of angry, crazy men, and they're throwing, and they're obviously kind of out of their minds, and they're just handing out violence indiscriminately, I would be scared too. I would have been terrified on that bus, and yeah, it is. It's completely unacceptable.
Do you think the UFC should step in and what do you think they should do? Do you think they can do anything?
Yeah, I mean, if they wanted to, they could ban Conor McGregor for life. They've done that to other fighters before. If they wanted to, they could impose all kinds of, like they could cut Artem Lobov. Like you know what I mean? They could impose all kinds of punishments on those guys. But at the end of the day, like, the truth is, and this kind of sucks, but the truth is that if Conor McGregor fights again, I'm going to be tuning in to watch. Like, that dude's still a money-making machine, and the UFC is going to pay attention to that. He's still their biggest star, probably even more so now. Like, people are going to be tuning in just to see if maybe somebody can beat him. So it's kind of awful. It's terrible to see guys do that kind of stuff and then, get away with it. Like, they're not going to get punished a lot because we all want to see him fight, but unfortunately, that's just the truth of it.
If we did eventually see Khabib Nurmagomedov and Conor McGregor, eventually matched up, what do you think the outcome of that fight would be? I
think Khabib would maul him.
Really?
McGregor might like have a good first round or good first 2 rounds, but I don't know. Khabib does get hit sometimes, and McGregor's got crazy power. So if anybody's gonna knock Khabib out, it's going to be McGregor. But I just think Khabib's wrestling is too good. Like, once he gets his hands on you, it's kind of game over. And, yeah, we've seen lesser fighters end up in the clinch with McGregor. So I would take Khabib on that.
Okay. I'll get some more predictions from you then as we're here. What about, obviously, in your division, Nicco, when she eventually defends her title against Valentina Shevchenko? What's your prediction for that outcome?
I don't know. I think everybody's kind of taking Shevchenko in that matchup, but having fought Nicco, I just know how tough she is. She's very fast, and she's really, really strong. She's actually quite a good wrestler, and we haven't seen Shevchenko face that many good wrestlers. And when she did, she fought Liz Carmouche early in her career. That's one of her only losses is to Liz. And I just think Nicco would give Shevchenko a much harder time than people give Nicco credit for. So maybe it would be a long shot, but I would actually put some money on Nicco in that fight, to be honest with you.
Okay. And then let's see, Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic. What would be your prediction for that?
That's a tough one, and I really like both those guys too. I don't know. That's really hard. It's really hard to guess. DC has no neck, so he can't get knocked out. That's the thing. Stipe is not going to be able to knock him out. So I guess I would still take Stipe in it. Man, that sucks because I really, really like DC, but got to go with the baddest man on the planet for that one.
Okay. How do you think he would get it done?
Decision. I don't see anybody finishing Cormier.
Okay. We'll go back to your fight. Obviously, you still got a little bit of a way. When did you say camp will start? In a couple of weeks?
We've already started, but just over the next couple of weeks, we'll start really ramping up like my rounds in the gym and my cardio and stuff like that.
And will anything change in terms of your approach to the camp? And are you going to be working on anything specific in preparation for her?
Maybe there's I think we can kind of guess her game plan. So obviously, we want to keep that in mind as we're working and not completely ignore it. But more than anything, I just want to focus on myself and the things I can control. And like I said, I watched tape of myself, and there were some things that I did that I think I could improve on. And if I do that, and you need to be well-rounded at this level, really. You have to be really ready for anything. And you really, especially at a high level in the top 5, top 10 in the UFC, you really just have to be good everywhere.
So how do you see the fight unfolding then?
I think it's going to be good. I think we're both pretty well rounded, and neither one of us are afraid to strike with each other. I'm not afraid to be on the ground with her. She's Lloyd Irvin black belt. I don't think she's going to be afraid to be on the ground with me. I think as long as we can both just keep moving, it's going to be an awesome fight. It's going to be a fight of the night.
And you mentioned obviously about the rankings. With a win over her, do you think that could possibly get you up there in the mix then in terms of getting a title shot?
Yes, absolutely. If I beat Sijara, I'll be the #1 contender for sure. I really should have been the #1 contender after I beat Barb, to be honest with you.
So how important then would you say this win is in terms of ranking it in your career so far?
Well, the wins are always important. I mean, it's always important to win. That's why we compete. But even more important than winning is just me having a good performance. I just want to relax and have fun and do what I love to do. And to me, that's by far the most important thing. And I think if I can do that well enough, then the wins will come.
Of course. Well, thank you very much for talking to me today. And are you going back to training today? Are you going training?
Actually, Fridays are always my off day.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, and then I go spar Saturdays. I wrestle on Sundays. And then Monday through Thursday, we have a really hard training week with our pro team. So
you're going to
Friday,
take today
sit around and I'll do shit.
Okay, well, I'll let you relax and recover. Thank you for talking to me, and I look forward to seeing your fight on June 1st.
Thank you so much for having me. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.